is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
All right, welcome to Kentucky's Voice. Hello, there we go. There's my picture. I got to see what.
Hey, there you are.
I don't know if I'm on the air. There I am.
Looking good in the neighborhood.
There we go. We are looking good today, hopefully, and like our nice Kentucky's Voice shirts here. I've got very proud of that. Very proud of that. Okay, anyway, welcome to the show today. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush. Of course, my guest, Debbie Robbins, and guest host, Debbie Robbins, and guest host, Bob Scott. And we've got a lot of topics to cover today. And so Thursdays and Fridays, we're trying to make this a pretty much like an open line, discussion. So we'll hit multiple themes. But I guess the biggest theme that's kind of I guess pushing me right now is just the whole fact that this is Pride Month, quote unquote Pride Month, right? And which is just this LGBT, movement to celebrate all things woke, and so. But what's interesting is I feel like, and see what you guys think about this. I feel like we've hit peak woke about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, right?
Yes.
2021, 2022, and especially since the Trump election, sort of anything that's sort of culturally far left is now kind of being more marginalized now. And so you see, we mentioned this last year for last year's Pride Month. Less corporations are waving the flag. You don't see as many promotions in the stores around this. People are sort of distancing themselves. There's it used to be every logo for every corporation this month was transformed into a rainbow logo of some sort. Everything from IBM to Ford to whatever.
Still hate it.
No one's doing that anymore, right? And so that could mean, well, they've won, so they don't need to or maybe it's just they haven't won, and the culture's pushing back. And before I go to you guys on your comments on that, I am disappointed in Kentucky. We were doing a good job of pushing back on that issue legally, and it looks like in the most recent session here, there's like several bills that were put up trying to push back that agenda, and none of them passed. And so if we can't get sort of a pushback on that agenda in this environment, then when are we ever going to get it? And so it's kind of disappointing. But anyway, Pride Month, yeah.
Well, I want to say it is very difficult to legislate morality. Nonetheless, we need to legislate morality. If our churches and our parents are not going to do a good job of loving their children and teaching them, right from wrong, then those of us that really, really are concerned, that's why I say to people, politics affects everything in your life. So you have to be involved, even though you say, I don't want to have a part of this. So I agree with you, Tom. We've got to step up with our Kentucky State Legislature. They've put some great bills out there, but they have to make it in that top 10 that get passed. There are so many things to do. But anyway, that's my opinion. And what do you think, Bob?
No, I think that's true. And I think what most people are concerned about, we just don't want to have that other system, so to speak, shoved down our throats.
Right.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. If you want to go and do whatever you want to do behind closed doors, as long as it's not harming anybody else, that's your business. But at the end of the day, we don't want you taking our children. We don't want you coming into our workplace and try to impose some kind of far left agenda speak upon us. We don't want that. And that's, I'd say the majority of Americans feel the same way I do.
Absolutely. And it's like it impose state religion, because basically like in schools when they teach this stuff, basically the LGBT agenda has a sort of an assumption about the nature of humans, of human beings. So it's sort of an existential view of what humans are about, and which is it's a very religious worldview. And so here they are pushing that to your kids. Well, but yet the same group will say, well, separation of church and state. Well, you want your church religion preached on our kids. Well, we can't bring our so it's a real odd moment. But we're going to continue talking about this in the next segment. We've got some background on why Pride Month is Pride Month, and also what's happening in Kentucky versus Tennessee. We'll be right back.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
It's my understanding that the governor of Kentucky has called this Pride Month. Is that right?
Official. The state of Kentucky declared June Pride Month.
And what did the governor of Tennessee declare it?
The governor of Tennessee, by the grace of God, declared in Tennessee this month Nuclear Family Month.
Come on.
What a man.
Come on. Tennessee tops Kentucky this month, and we need to change that up in Frankfort. Get rid of Bashir, but don't ever let him be president of the United States of America. Go Tennessee. We're thankful for you.
There we go.
All right.
So, all right, guys, if that doesn't get your blood up as a Kentuckian to let Tennessee beat us, all right. At the end of the day, you know, Kentucky's better. We're the real hillbillies. They're imitation hillbillies, right? So we are, you know, we're the real deal. So seriously, Tennessee has a lot going on there on the pro-family side of things. And let me pull this article up as well, Mr. Producer, if you could. This is from the sort of the agenda, or the opponent, our opponents, basically the people that are pushing that agenda. Queer Kentucky, right? It's their website. And look at the title of this article: Kentucky passed 0 anti-LGBT laws in 2026. Here's how advocates made it happen, right? And so it's a whole article explaining how they won. They basically won because
how did they win? Intimidation?
Well, they just basically lobbied. They went up there and lobbied and then killed all these bills. We had several bills up there, and I'll pull up another quote here in a minute, but that has the bills listed. But it's basically a you know, it's a win for them. You know, they push back on a very conservative legislature, you know, Republican dominated with a supermajority, couldn't get a single bill passed that had to do with these issues, like, you know, men and women's sports, you know, bathroom bills, all these things that are just layups, you know. And they couldn't get them passed.
Right. Well, I want to say this out there, everybody. Please text us at 502-571-0970. And I also want to comment on that, Tom. As Christians, this is a Christian conservative program. I always hear people when they get defensive, when they're doing something immoral, or we are sinners saved by grace. Amen to that. And people say, oh, don't judge unless you're going to be judged. But that's not what it means in the Bible. Right. It means have judgment. You have to have good judgment on these issues, which is what, our president, the imperfect person, calls common sense. We've got to have common sense. So I want to say to legislators out there and to citizens, we have to have common sense. And, having a moral agenda, living a moral life is a wonderful thing to do. It gives you great freedom. And we've got to speak out against these issues. And our legislators, you cannot back down. You cannot be intimidated, because this is common sense. You're talking about young people's minds that you're going to ruin for the rest of your lives if you don't help stop the insanity.
Bob, I'm going to go to you next. But I'm going to read real quickly just what didn't happen here. So approximately 10 bills targeting LGBT issues, such as religious exemptions, redefinition of sex, school curriculum restrictions, bathroom sports protections, were filed, but none became law. The Family Foundation lobbied against pro-LGBT measures and in favor of the conservative bills, but many never even received committee hearings under Republican leadership. Here's a direct quote from Family Foundation. Kentucky's 2026 General Assembly has concluded, and overall it was a disappointing session that lacked many significant victories on pro-family issues. They specifically listed bills failed, such as HB 170, which is a religious liberties protection bill, HB 334 and SB 179, which clearly define two sexes in state law, SB 26, protecting K through 12 schools from discriminatory DEI practices, HB 670, restoring the Ten Commandments into classrooms. It can go on. It's just a shame. So, this is the moment to push back on this stuff, and it's not happening.
My comment is actually several, but should we be surprised? Our leadership, if you want to call them that, in Frankfort, Republican leadership, overwhelming Republican leadership, because they do have a supermajority, truthfully, from a purely conservative standpoint, has been lacking, at best. And I'm being kind when I say that, and any chance that they can get to run towards the middle of the road, that's what they do, whether you like it or not. And it is time, for a changing of the guard. Now, just to be very frank with you, I don't see that coming anytime soon, because some of the truly more Christian conservative legislators are no longer there because they've either gone on to run, most of them have gone on to run for other races, which sadly they lost. And this is really what that leadership wants. They want, much like in the federal leadership system, they want people that are going to be speaking and engaging, a puppet, if you will, for the way that they want you to vote. I know Aaron Reed did. He's a senator from District 7. He did recently introduce a resolution, 148, that does recognize June as the Fidelity Month in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Again, as a pushback, and just sharing very quickly, he says fidelity means being faithful to God, faithful to family, faithful to our community, faithful to our country. So and I don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater. There are still some solid legislators there, but it is disappointing. This last session was absolutely horrific, and we do, as I mentioned earlier, have a supermajority, and it's time, that you at home, because I have done some lobbying in the past, your phone calls make a big difference, So if you call yourself a conservative, especially if you call yourself a Christian conservative, it is very important that you reach out to your legislators and let them know that it's very, very important to get involved, and that they start supporting conservative legislation.
Right. Well, I want to say, too, like next Tuesday night on Electron Drive, you can look us up, Jefferson County Republican Party. Our county meeting, it's monthly. The public is invited. But every single time that you can engage a legislator, sign up for their Facebook pages. Look at what they're thinking. And they put their opinions out there. And it is so important. And if you feel led to run for an office, God bless you. Do it and make your voice known. But like Bob said, or like I said, my state legislator told me, Debbie, one phone call exponentially represents hundreds for the state legislator. Multiply that, it's thousands for your state senator. That they know that if I call today, that I'm representing hundreds of people that think like me. And that's you out there too listening. So we've got to take our country back.
We do. Can I add a caveat to that? Please run, but only run if you're not afraid of being called a hater.
Exactly.
Okay? Because here's the problem, guys. We've got a lot of Republican leadership, or Republican politicians, who are in politics just because they want some power, or they want some recognition, or just some influence, but they're not necessarily passionate believers in the cause of just the broader conservative agenda. They're just there because they want to be a big deal. Well, the problem with that type of person is when they get in there, they're easily pushed or swayed by forces like the LGBT movement that comes along and says, "Hey, if you vote against this, we're going to make you look like a hater. You're going to be this evil bigot that." And so I don't want to be that. I just want to be here to be a popular person and have power. So I'm going to kind of soft sell this bill, slow walk this bill. Maybe I'll kind of just let it die in committee. And we've got too many of those types of folks that just want power just for the sake of power and not really ready to put it on the line to move the agenda for you. Right. Right. Because there's a lot of problems. I'm saying this last point. Here's the big picture. Right now, there's a crisis with young people with this issue. A third of young women are identifying as LGBT, right? Now, whether it's bisexual, it's lesbianism, transgender, whatever. It's a whole spectrum. But that is a huge problem. And that's just blew up in the past decade, right?
Well, I'm a woman, and I will tell you.
Social contagion.
I mentor young women. That's my passion, my heart. And, of course, I mentor from a conservative standpoint, but just being a Proverbs 31 woman, and it's the media, it was the feminism movement, and that is really sad, Tom. You're so right. It's very scary, and a lot of those women are the ones running for office. So, and then on the other hand, I'm the mother of a son, and I want to say to all the moms of sons out there and dads, the father's mandate. Hey, dads. Hey, uncles. Hey, community leaders, pour into these young men. Show them the way, show them leadership, show them what it is to stand up. And those that are running for office, yeah, please, if it's a power thing for you, if it's something that you think is going to help you think it builds your self-worth, it doesn't, because it's a vicious game. You need to have a very strong character, and you need to have a purpose and a reason, and remember that you're a servant. And people get, like you said, Tom, they get pulled into a lot of things, and they can make money or get prestige. But
and let me say this too, Debbie. I'll put this in. By the way, folks, get a question into the show. We want to hear from you. 502-571-0970. Again, 502-571-0970. This is probably one of the most important conversations we're going to be having on our show today. So it is critical that we do hear from you, and we want to hear your voice, with regard to it. It's called Kentucky's Voice for a reason. So, please get involved. But to echo what you're saying, Debbie, now's the time, for dads to lead and moms to lead and take an active role, with regard to our kids and showing them the way to go.
Yeah, exactly right. And the result is, if we don't, we're not going to have a future, because these young women that are doing this, they're not going to get married. They're not going to have kids. So what happens with a third of your young women don't marry, don't have kids? Guess what? Your population starts declining and you collapse. This is existential, folks. This isn't just academic.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Gay people fact of the day. So the reason Pride Month is even in June is because of this event called the Stonewall Uprising, which took place in June of 1969. And essentially, we hear the same tale now every June. A bunch of brave gay people, trans people of all different colors, rising up at the Stonewall Inn, a bunch against a bigoted police who are harassing them for being different. And it's presented now as the spark of the modern gay rights movement. Love is love, bigot. Yeah, like none of that's true. The Stonewall Inn was not some like harmless dancing club for downtrodden minorities. No, like this was owned owned and operated by the Genovese crime family, who ran it basically as a cash cow. So they paid off the police to look the other way while the bar operated without a liquor license, sold drugs, had no running water, literally let the toilets overflow constantly. There were not even fire exits. Like, this should have been shut down as a matter of public safety by itself. The real reason the police raided the bar in June of 1969 had nothing to do with people just being gay. The mayor was cracking down on illegal booze, and the inn was known for that, along with other crimes like prostitution. Also, many of those prostitutes were underage. Many of the boys working there were like runaways, homeless teenagers, and some of the patrons were there to have sex with those minors, and the mafia was making money off the whole thing. Even now, Time magazine lauds Stonewall for the centering of youth sex work. Okay, so when the police showed up that night, they weren't just being like meanie homophobes. Like, they were raiding a criminal operation which just so happened to cater to gay men. It's funny too, because I guess there's been a lot of fighting recently between gay people and trans people, because trans people keep trying to claim that they were like a part of this, when in reality it was just like one gay guy who was cross-dressing. And a lot of trans people are actually just gay cross-dressers who commit to the bit, but we'll discuss the science behind that later this month. But yeah, like Marsha P. Johnson, who now has a state park in Brooklyn totally in the spotlight because of this event. Yeah, he admitted on camera years later that he wasn't even there. This was not an isolated case. The same pattern existed at other gay-friendly spots in that.
I'm going to stop it there because you get the point. This whole Pride Month is based on something that was a lie anyway, which is usually the left's MO, right? You know, everything they do is based on a lie. Their whole worldview is a lie. You know, it's utopian and it's a lie. But so it's perfect that this Stonewall event is actually totally misrepresented as something, as some sort of, you know, civil human rights issue, is really just the police cracking down. Something was very illegal and very dark and evil, and which should have been cracked down on. And so, but yeah, they're going to make a movement out of it. So anyway, just any comment on that video, guys?
I just get disgusted every single time I have to look at something like that, and I don't mean to be mean.
Well, that's normal. That's normal and healthy. I mean, that's a normal reaction. That's let me say this real quick before you finish that point, because that is something that every conservative, every sort of middle American that deals with this issue, there's a natural, instinctive kind of revulsion to even kind of approach it, because it's a healthy reaction to see something that abhorrent and to not have a visceral, you know, reaction. So that's healthy. And so, but we need to get beyond that on some level in order to deal with the issue as an adult, and actually, you know, try to fight against the agenda, and also try to help the people that are involved in it, because it's very sad, and it's very that they're caught up in that stuff, and it's taking them to places that's going to destroy their lives. And you do want to help them on a personal level, but from a societal level and an agenda standpoint, you got to fight it, and it's difficult.
Yeah,
so.
We cannot become desensitized to it, which is what the left's agenda is every single day, all day long. And unfortunately, people just shrug, and they just say, oh, well, forget it. And but the minds and the hearts of people are just being destroyed. So what do you all think? Are you out there? 502-571-0970. It's a beautiful day today in Louisville. I do love the gift of June, and I want it to be remembered and known for greatness, and, you know, like, what was it? The fidelity of family and country and everything. So what do you all think out there?
So here's a
Bob,
question.
what do you think?
Well, Bob, what should the next governor, who's going to be a Republican, who's going to be a conservative, what should he name this month instead of Pride Month? What should we call it? You know, Tennessee's already calling it, you know, what is it, Family Month or whatever it is. Yeah. What should we call this month?
Well, I kind of like June.
Good.
You know, let's just start there. I'd like to start getting away from these naming of months,
all these celebrations of all
the celebrations and everything. I mean, you know, other than that, you know, I'm a big Christmas guy. I'm a big Easter guy. I'm a big Thanksgiving guy. You know, and you know, for crying out loud, let's get back to some normalcy. You know, if that's possible in this country, and get back to the basics. And you know, I have no problem with, you know, calling it Family Month. You know, but honestly, it should be every month, or every day should be Family Day, Family Month. You know, that we need to be focused on, and, you know, continuing to build our nuclear family. You know, God, country. You know, the things that really made us who we are today as a nation. So, in fact, we did just get a text in, and Okay. They said consider having a local Turning Point USA rep on the show. We have done that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually called him on the way in to say, "Can you be on the show today?" And he didn't answer the call, so he's going to be on the show.
Well, there you go.
I really did. Because here's the deal: TPUSA Faith is going to have a big event here in Louisville, and next month.
Do you know the date yet?
Yeah, I should know this.
We need to know this date. Look it up because I want to be there. Yeah. I think it's going to be amazing.
They do this national tour in I forgot the name of it, but it's like TPUSA. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be a huge thing where they bring all the big wigs. It's going to be here in Louisville. It's going to be at Evangel World Prayer Center right off of Belltown Road, and I think it's next month. And it's just going to be we'll get the exact date and times for you here in the next segment. But
that'd be amazing.
I do want to mention this too. That there has been some good news on this front this past year, and so I like to try to kind of look at the past year from one Pride Month to the next. Right. We did have a big case that was won in Louisville against the fairness ordinance, right? Because Louisville has this fairness ordinance, right? You know, I love the Orwellian terms they apply to these commie bills that they put out there. And so this wedding photographer, she won a case against the fairness ordinance because she's a Christian. She didn't want to have to go shoot gay weddings, right? Same-sex weddings. And so she said, listen, I'm going to file a petition and you need to give me some clarity because I'm not going to do this. And so if I say no, am I going to get sued? And so she took him to court and she won. And she won. She basically said, the court said, you have rights as a Christian to turn down these sort of things, and won an $800,000 suit. So the city has to pay her $800,000, which mostly goes to her legal fees, and basically just gutted the fairness ordinance, which is a beautiful thing because that's basically saying you have to bow down and worship this agenda, or else we will take everything you have.
That was a young woman of courage, and leaders that we've elected, we've put you in these positions for you to have courage. And we expect that. That's what I do. And every time, I'm serious, the older I get, the bolder I get. So I keep speaking my mind in the most loving way I can, but firm. And, you just have to do it. And you need to be able to just look up who represents you and speak to them. They want to hear from you. But I want to encourage them, if any of them are listening today, you got to have courage, and you got to let go of pride also. You've got to stand up for what's right, because if core issues are not right, just the core morality of life, you cannot do anything else. If you can't even do those core basic things right, nothing else is going to work. So what do you all think out there? 502-571-0970. What's going on in your mind on this Thursday?
Yep, on this topic. So. All right. Well, Bob, I'm going to switch to some other topics here in the next segment, but anyway, we just can't let this go. I want everybody. We got about a minute left. I want you to think back about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, just the environment we were living in, especially related to that issue. Imagine even talking about it at work in a way that was, I got a little concern about this. Maybe I shouldn't put this pride flag in my cubicle. Maybe I shouldn't go to this. My company's forced me to go to this Pride Festival here. Now, what if I said no? Am I going to lose my job? And guess what? People did lose their jobs. Guess what? Businesses got boycotted and shut down, basically, if they didn't wave the pride flag. It was this totalitarian, fascist, communist moment in our country that agenda was pushing. And it was evil. I just want everybody to not forget that. That's what they want. It's an authoritarian movement. If you don't bow down to their agenda and support everything they want, that's it. They'll put you on the trains. Just that's it. That's where we're at in this country.
We can't let this
happen. They're doing it in Canada right now, and most of Europe. So you're 100% spot on, Tom.
Yeah, exactly right. So we got to fight this stuff, and it's just because culturally we're winning. Legally, it's still out there. Let's just So we'll be back.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Okay, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. We were talking about Pride Month and the fact that they want to still call it Pride Month, and I'm never going to call it Pride Month, but it is we're talking about that agenda and how we're pushing back on it and how it's going to fail, because at the end of the day that stuff has no life in it. The whole LGBT movement is basically a movement of death. It's a sterile movement, and as it brings people into it, their lives sort of implode. Because those people just spiritually and mentally and everywhere else, it's just not a very healthy, and physically, not a very healthy lifestyle. And so it's death there. Plus, there's no procreation that goes on in that world. So the more people get involved in that, the less kids we have, and the smaller our society gets, and the weaker we get. And so it's a death spiral.
It is.
That whole movement is a death spiral.
And we just want everybody to know, even though it's summertime, they still answer the phones, or they have an answering machine in Frankfort. So just let your voices be heard as to what kind of bills that we want passed next year. We want these morality bills passed firmly. Put them all in one bill if you have to. And they have all summer and winter to get it ready before January. And the number again is 502 up there.
800-372-7181.
There you go.
800-372-7181.
Right.
Call them and tell them you're disappointed that they didn't pass all these anti-LGBT bills like they should have been. Doing. It's just a ridiculous. This is a conservative state. It's a red state. We shouldn't have any of this weirdness going on. And protect your kids.
Yes.
If nothing else, protect your kids.
I just got a text from Lindsay Tishner, lovely, amazing Kentucky State Senator. I pray will be a future governor. But she said the number that's open all year round is 502-564-8100. If you want to get a live person, 502-564-8100. Thank you, Senator Tishner, for that number. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, we're going to switch gears to a topic that never seems to go away. It never, it's never going to die, because you've got a whole schism that's developing in the conservative world between, I don't know what you call them. I guess this libertarian right, this. I don't know. There's a lot of people on the MAGA side are calling them the retard right. I think that's kind of harsh, because I think these people have a little bit of they have some principles. They're just kind of misguided. But
I think they'd prefer to have it called "Make America First" again.
There we go. Okay, America First, right?
That's what I'm hearing from most of the people on that side.
Okay.
And I think it's, and again, that's the problem. We don't want to get into this where we start to slam each other and cutting each other down.
It destroys the coalition. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And that's what the far left wants. And I think, honestly, candidly, some on the quote unquote moderate right want.
Yeah, and also our enemies overseas want that.
100%.
I think there's a lot of Russian influence going on with a lot of this stuff too. They love to make us isolationists. So we pull away from the world. They can just take it over.
I agree. But, here's what I want to say, though, to all of the factions in our Republican Party and just to people in general. Again,
yes, Mom.
I don't want to accuse, but if we have legislators that are doing things behind the scenes that are illegal, or that are benefiting them personally, which is causing them to cloud their character, their judgment, and not want to do the common sense things, because I agree, make America first again. And we want to make America great again. I agree with all that. But we have to get rid of the people that are doing nefarious things on both sides of the aisle. They've got to go. And we have to keep electing and finding and looking for candidates that have the right heart, the right mindset, that are looking out for Americans, looking out for their neighbors, looking out for their families, and that all decisions that are made are only on that. Not that your portfolio is going to get bigger, not that you get to be a little superstar in town. That's not what it's about.
Well, let's get into the nitty gritty of what this issue is about, because really it's being led by a couple of people that are congressmen, former congressmen, our very own Thomas Massie, right? So Thomas Massie is, of course, he was, everybody, unless you're living on an island, he just lost this primary and he's on his way out. But there was a huge fan base, a lot of support for him locally and nationally. And so there's a lot of younger people were supporting him versus older folks who were more Trump and MAGA and Gowring. So there is this demographic divide that's, whether you like it or not, is there. And so what I'd like to do is just try to unpack those issues that they're advocating and try to air those two sides out, because and I wish I had Lance here today, because Lance is all in on the Massie thing, and he's really still out there kind of saying, hey, this is a problem, we need to deal with it, and the young people are going to revolt, and you're not going to win another election, Trump, if you don't get the young people back involved in this. And his show on Monday, he went through a bullet point of a bunch of points of things that Trump promised that he's not delivering on. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's delivered a lot myself, but anyway, Bob, not that you're representing that side perfectly, but what would you say the argument that, because I'm kind of hiding the headline.
Well, I have young sons.
This real quick. I'm hiding the headline. Massie, there's talk that he and MTG are going to set up a new movement to try to take over the Republican Party, and they're looking at the long term, going to rally the young people to try to make this more of an America First party and come back, make a big comeback. And so, what are their principles? What are their arguments?
Well, I can't say specifically because they really haven't put anything forth yet. I know they went on a fishing trip together here recently.
Right. Well, first of all, they hate the Jews. Secondly, what else? So.
Well,
some hate to say that, but
I don't think it's hate the Jews. I mean, I think that they hate and despise the fact and have a problem with the fact that billions of dollars is being given specifically to one country, a country that has free health care for their citizens. Do we have free health care in our country? I don't think so,
right.
And other things to benefit the local people. And I think the pushback is happening. And we know that said country through, let's just say, I don't know what I would call them, benefactors or whatever, did give a substantial amount of money. And I'm talking millions of dollars that really helped win the election.
That's right.
For their candidate, Ed Galbraith.
Yep.
That is a fact. That happened. That's not a lie. That's
sure.
all reality. And here, and the thing about young people, I was once young, many years ago, and you tend to be a little bit more passionate about things. And we know Turning Point USA and specifically Charlie Kirk, and I cannot even understate the importance of him being assassinated, how that has dramatically affected our country and the Republican Party and the conservative movement for the bad. We lost a treasure, a national treasure, who probably would have been elected president. Had that not happened.
Absolutely, future president.
So that's where the concern is. And I have two young sons, both in that younger generation, and so. Even though I'm of the boomer age, I get a chance to hear them and get feedback. And it does bring me to what I would consider myself more of a center line. I don't hate Israel. I really don't. I know it is a part of God's plan as far as mankind is concerned. However, I've had major problems with their leadership there. And I think that's where a lot of the problem is stemming from. And the fact that we have, as a nation, just poured, again, billions of dollars into them. And really, they absolutely have been given more favor by our government and leaders. And Massie was the only United States congressman, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was before she left, that did not accept AIPAC funding, in that process. So,
well, that's okay. But Massie, again, I'm not going to give him a free pass on who gave him money. He had, go look it up on the government website. There's a huge family in Texas, Islam, Muslim, whatever. They gave him a bunch of money. And there are a lot of other people like that as well. So he is not, free from that.
Yeah.
And I just want to say also that for me with him, again, it was when he when he went again, or he didn't even try to help the president in 2020 when the election went down and we had all the fraud. It just hit me in the depths of my soul. I thought, okay. And then he's just been an obstructionist ever since. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, as great as she is,
let's water under the bridge now.
No, because if he's coming back out with his movement, or if he's, I don't.
Well, let's unpack. What is the movement?
What
is the? Because all right, the anti-Israel stuff, that's not enough to build a national movement on. That's kind of that for most people. That's a
and I don't think it's that
issue.
Okay, well,
what are the other key themes?
Yeah, I mean,
is it just the
we're
debt?
Paying $4 to $4.50 a gallon of gas. Mm-hmm. You know, we're looking at interest rates that really haven't dropped. You know, as far as a normal college graduate or high school graduate isn't going to go out and buy a home today. That's not happening.
Okay.
You know,
right.
You know, if Trump wants to hit a home run, I'm going to put my own personal thoughts in this. I've said it many times on this show. He needs to get rid of the federal income tax.
Yeah.
You know, that is a fraud that's been perpetuated on the citizens of this nation, because very little, and let me say this too, who does that affect the most? It affects middle-class Americans, working Americans. That's who it has the greatest impact on. And that income tax pays very little. You know, very little.
But is that what Massey's pushing? Is he pushing getting rid of the federal income tax?
Is that his agenda?
What is his agenda?
We're on it.
That's my personal statement.
Okay,
you know.
right.
That's what I'm trying to get.
MTG. But to answer your question, Massey has said that should happen.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. And so has the president, and he would love for that to happen.
He has.
And that's why
but who's in power now, Debbie? That's my only question.
Well, he's been in office for 16 months.
Time to put up or shut up.
Look at all the amazing things he's done in 16 months.
Okay, what are they?
Oh my goodness, the big beautiful bill. I mean, we got a huge tax refund this year.
It increased our national debt by $2 trillion. But go ahead, I'm listening.
Okay.
Well, and all the executive
putting the tariffs
orders
into place, which has brought trillions in. Every single thing this man does. I've never known a president in my lifetime.
And I'll say very quickly, I'm not against President Trump. I would much rather have President Trump than the alternative. But these are things, I'm just telling you all, as we're leading up to these midterms, unless some things happen really quickly, the midterms will be a bloodbath for the Republican conservative movement. Yeah. They will be. Yeah, they normally are anyway after someone from the opposing party gets elected. But we're not heading in the right direction, and some things need to happen.
Yeah, but I think things will turn around. People's memory are pretty short. As soon as gas prices come down this summer, which is going to happen because this war will be over by then, people will forget, and I think we'll be back on track. But we'll see. We'll be right back.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. We're talking about the future of Massie, his maybe a movement with MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're talking about taking over the Republican Party in the future and creating an insurgency. And I'm just trying to figure out what's their agenda? What do they stand for? I mean, obviously they're very Israel skeptic. I'll be polite and say that. They're trying. They don't want all this foreign aid going to Israel. At the same time, we give all their neighbors, Egypt and Turkey and Saudi Arabia, we give them as much foreign aid as Israel. So it's like, okay, well, where's your upset with Egypt? Why aren't you upset with Saudi Arabia? So anyway, it's just a strange. It's weird to focus on Israel. Is what I'm saying. So it kind of lends to.
It's demonic.
It has. That kind of
to me, as a Christian, that's
it's not demonic. That's ridiculous.
Well, it can be.
It can be
not in all
because
cases.
if we're talking about evil is Satan rules the world. So, but Israel is God's chosen people. He uses them to shape us, mold us, give us examples, just to teach us all throughout the Bible. And I just get really irritated. Now, I understand people getting upset with Bibi Netanyahu, but man, every single time the man opens his mouth and delivers a speech, it's profound. So until there's someone comes along that's another Bibi or, I don't know. I like it.
Here's you have to look at Israel, look at it, decision by decision. And I'm sure there's some decisions that Israel made that you can critique. Just like decisions we've made that you can critique. I wasn't a big fan of the Arab Spring. We blew up the Middle East 10 years ago, right? And so, with Gaddafi and all this stuff. So, am I going to hate America, or am I going to shut? So I don't know. It's a weird. I don't know, but at the end of the day, that's not enough to build a movement on. Just the whole isolationist, no foreign aid thing. That's a trend that occurs in American
history. That's a part of it, and
eventually, let me finish this. That's a trend that happens in American history every 50, 60 years, and that's going to. That's popular. But what's going to happen is, as we retreat, our adversaries will embolden themselves, and they'll start dominating their neighbors, and some sort of conflict will occur, and then we got to go out and put out the fire again. It's like It's like Israelis have a term called mowing the lawn. And it basically says, if we just leave all these neighbors alone that are trying to kill us, they'll get their strength up, and they'll start attacking us again, and we got to go out and attack them again. And it's a cycle. It's like mowing the lawn. Well, America's the same thing. If we pull back from the world, all these bad actors will start emerging their heads, start dominating the neighbors.
Well, history clearly shows that.
And they did that during Obama and Biden.
That's what we tried to do in World War II and did do for a period of time.
Exactly.
And it took a devastating attack on our homeland, albeit Hawaii, that caused the American people to come into the war. Now, we are getting some great comments. Here's one here. Perhaps these members of the conservative movement are not Jew haters, which I agree. I'm not a Jew hater. They just want to make sure America is put first and not Israel. Part of transplant to get rid of the federal income tax was by using, and we were talking about the federal income tax, was to be using tariffs. Trump has fought tooth and nail against that. But both sides
has been fought against. Been
fought against. And they go on to say, I doubt Massie has voted to give any foreign countries money, which is that statement's 100% true.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
So those are all true statements.
But he took some for his campaign.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a country he took it from. It was a private citizen, but that's a whole, whether you like it or not, that's just the way it was.
But, besides foreign aid, what else can he build this movement on? What are the young people concerned about? Is it the national debt? Is it
it's just their ability, I think, to survive and get by.
Yeah, affordability.
And with AI coming on the scene now, and it's being obviously pushed very strongly, and I might add opposed by a lot in our state for many, many reasons. And that's a whole different show in itself. We have talked about it here. These are the issues that are of grave concern to the young people, So, another comment, what about all the money given to Ukraine, which is true.
Exactly.
We've poured billions. An admonition for you, Debbie. Stay in the fight, Debbie, they said. And The president can't do it alone without Congress, which to a great extent, that's true too. You know, it's very, very important that we as conservatives, we as Christians, as much as possible, coalesce. We don't always have to think just alike. That's okay. You know, having a different dissenting voice is what makes America great.
I agree, but to play a spoiler and to undermine the Trump agenda, when what I hear Massey saying is Trump is not being Trump enough. It's kind of what he's saying in a lot of ways. But so since he's not being Trump enough, I'm going to be a foil to Trump. Is that what he's doing?
Well, guess what, too?
It's not a good argument, and I don't know how he's going to get people to rally around him. And let me say this,
release of the Epstein files.
Okay, go ahead.
You know.
Well, now I got to jump in here. I heard Ari Fleischman say yesterday, the former, what was he? He was the press secretary for Bush. He said President Trump is every alpha male's alpha male. He is not a fool. He doesn't give in. He knows what he's doing. And I just want to give the man a break. Every turn, every decision, every executive order, everything, it gets fought against. It's absolutely insane. Tell me any other president where that has happened. That's why we are in the trouble we're in. Because on one hand,
well, we
like
had
people
a brain dead
speaking up.
President in the last administration.
I know. It's
that was just running it, but with the auto pen and his wife. You know. And most people believe it was Obama, as I'm probably one of them. That was
I agree.
Pretty much in charge. You know, there and I'm with you. I voted for Trump 3 times.
Right.
You know, and and would still vote for him today.
Right.
You know,
but people on his own side, like a Massey, are just not helping. His influence is minuscule. To me, he's the flea on the tail of a dog. I'm sorry, that sounds mean.
Well,
but no, I want to finish that out. I'm saying he's one of 435 congressmen, and in this very, very slim majority, he's been a very aggravating flea on the tail of a dog. I will say he has given food for fodder to the left. Outrageous. All for his own ego, his own attention is what I personally think, and millions of others. That's why the man lost his race. Wow. But I want to say to young people out there, I know Bob's saying no, but honestly, that's why he lost his race.
$32 million, the most money ever spent on a congressional
look how much Kamala Harris spent. Kamala Harris, $1.5 billion to help her become president.
We've got about 5 minutes left. Can someone out there listening who's a big Massey fan text us and articulate his principle? What is he fighting for, other than just being a spoiler and this libertarian hero and the isolationist hero and Israel skeptic? What is it? I mean, because he wants to start a movement to take over the party. Well, what's your agenda? Are you more Trumpian than Trump?
I know.
Are you less Trumpian than Trump?
He voted against the president yesterday on being able of the Iran war powers. Here we are in the midst of very, very difficult negotiations, and those 4 foolish congressmen who are all about themselves voted for that yesterday. Now, ultimately, the president will be able to veto it, even if the Senate goes for it. But nonetheless,
which they're not.
Food for fodder for the left again. Instead of those guys just, hold your nose and say we trust our president. How dare them? Are you on our side or not? Are you a right, conservative, common sense thinker, or are you just an antagonist who just wants your little, moment in the sun? That was ridiculous yesterday. And read the president's Truth Social post. He articulates it in only the way that he can. But it just really is frustrating. Those kind of things to me are ridiculous.
I mean, there are some things that I wish Trump would move faster on and be more aggressive with. It's like he needs to deport faster. And deport more people. Apparently, I think 3 million's been deported, but we need 20, 30 million deported. I mean, really, the country's over. If we keep allowing
But when
this
you
to
have
happen.
all these cities, Toms, out there, all these people, again, they're so afraid. They can't stand up. Our leaders, our mayors, our city councils, they don't want ICE around, and they don't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that really sets me on fire too. You know, when
Right.
I see these fake protests that most of these people, or a lot of these people, are being paid to come and do what they're doing and create confusion and division. That again, that's another set of smoke screens that the left is putting out to do what? We talked about it many times. We talk about it all the time. Try to keep us divided as a people. You know, I will still make an argument, and I have many times. It's really a uniparty with certain elements of it. You have the leftist Democrats. You have Republicans that are on that side, and they coalesce, and you usually see it in the government. You know, both on both sides of. And I'm not talking about the executive branch. I'm talking about in the legislative side of things, and it happens in state government too. You know. This is time. This is a time that we, the people, really need to stand up. In fact, one of our listeners just texted in and said the Constitution matters no matter who the president is. Congress has the war powers, and Trump should ask Congress for a vote if he wants this war to continue. I'm going to read another one real quick.
We don't have enough time to debate that.
Yeah, no. Debbie is right. It wasn't even about the money, referring to an earlier discussion. And they go on to say, hey, great show, guys. Love all the perspective. This is what we need. We need this kind of discussion to happen. And at the end of the day, coalesce.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, one critique I hear a lot of these folks that are going into this new direction. I don't know what you call it yet.
Uni-party.
This Massey, MTG, maybe Rand Paul, sort of libertarian right. That's Israel skeptic. Is a lot of them have almost a closeted leftist view on certain things, and so a lot of people on the right are saying these are really just more left wing people that are starting just to break away within the party. Because
and moderate Democrats hate it. They do. I said moderate Democrats hate what the Democratic Party is coalescing into a far left. And they are right now. The power base right now in the Democratic Party is running far left.
I know, but in our own party, we need to root out those that, like they did in Indiana. Let's Indiana them.
So is Massey a moderate? Is he going to pull in these moderate Democrats? Is that what we're trying to figure out? I don't know. We need to figure this out, because I just don't understand what the man's about and what he's doing. And
I don't
other than just saying,
we need to continue this discussion tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do that tomorrow, because you know, is it just all about